If they didn't have the results in their life that you desire in your life, it is because they think completely differently about what it is that you want to create. They had a totally different paradigm, a completely different belief system, and they just transferred that over to you.
Successful people learn how to make their mind work for them. I'm David Nagel, and this is the Successful Mind Podcast.
Hey everybody, David Nagel here. I would like to take you through a process that I go through and take my clients through every year just before the New Year's. And it is how to make a transformation, a significant transformation in your life over the next 12 months. So this will be a two-part series. Let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start off here with the stick person. And if you remember what I had told you before in other podcasts, that he was created in 1934 by Dr. Thurman Fleet as a way to convey to students the difference between how the mind works and how the brain works. And the most significant difference for this class is basically this. The mind is in every cell of our body. It is a consciousness that exists everywhere in the universe, and we're part of it. We're literally connected to that consciousness. And the significance around that means that all of the information, all of the knowledge that ever was or ever will be is 100% present in all places at the same time, which is very significant when you think about this. When you don't know how to do something, the information to do it is already here. You just need to learn how to work with your mind in order to bring that information in so that you can make a choice to do something different. But I think what's really important about these two lessons is this. You literally can change any situation in your life right now, and 2020 can be the most amazing year that you've ever experienced if you understand a few things and just do a few things different than you have before. Let this represent you, and let this represent you prior to the age of 7 years old. Now, here's the reason why. The top part of the head would be considered our conscious mind, and the bottom part of the head would be considered our subconscious mind. And we have to really understand, I don't think you can study this too much, because the more you understand it, the more ability that you have to make new choices and actually create and manifest new things in your life. The conscious mind has the ability to think, to reason. It has the ability to accept or reject an idea. It's where our mental faculties lie. It's a place in our mind that has conscious choice. It can also imagine. It can take information and create any image on the screen of your mind that you want to build. And if you think about all the things that have been created or fashioned by human hands, before we could actually create that, like before somebody could create this marker, they had to have an idea or a concept or an image in their mind to be able to do it. It's kind of like creating a picture out of a jigsaw puzzle. When you get a jigsaw puzzle, you see the picture on the front of the box, but the puzzle's a mess when you open it up. And based on that image, you start to move pieces around with the idea of how can I put them together to create that image that I see on the box. Life is very much the same way. We have an image in our mind of what it is that we want to create, and then we go through life through different choices, different actions, different behaviors, and in putting all of those pieces together that we have in a great abundance in our life, we can literally create the life that we truly desire to live. And there's nothing that you can't create. If you can see it in your mind, you can literally create it in your life. So why do we starting here prior to the age of 7? Prior to the age of 7, this part of the mind is not developed. The conscious mind is not developed, which means that our ability to reject an idea does not exist. Also, really our ability to think about or evaluate an idea, that doesn't exist either. The only part that exists is the subconscious mind. And what's unique about the subconscious mind is that it cannot reject anything. Anything that goes into it becomes fixed, like a program in the hard drive of a computer. and then it keeps manifesting itself through actions and results in your life until you consciously decide to change it. So prior to the age of 7, all the ideas, the images, the sounds, the experiences that you're experiencing in your life are going into your subconscious mind, and they're forming a foundation of how we think. So we're just going to put how here. That is how we think. Now, by the time we're 7 and our conscious mind starts to develop, which gives us the ability to evaluate what it is that we're experiencing in our life, the how, as far as how we think about those things, is coming from the information in our subconscious mind that we didn't have the ability to reject. That means that all the people that were around you prior to 7 years old basically told you how to think about everything that you're going to experience in your lifetime. They gave you the foundational information as to how to think about that. If they didn't have the results in their life that you desire in your life, it is because they think completely differently about what it is that you want to create. They had a totally different paradigm, a completely different belief system, and they just transferred that over to you. What's interesting about that is that as we literally go through our life, we very often think that we're thinking about what it is that we want to create, and actually we're really not. We're repeating patterns from the generation that came before us, or the generation that came before that, or the generation that came before that. It's kind of like we're the creation of multiple generations of experiences and belief systems, and then the determination that this is the only way to actually live. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's the truth. What it means is that it's the reality of the people that came before us. But it doesn't mean that it's the truth. And what we're after is the truth. If we understand the truth about life, and we understand the truth about ourselves, and we understand the truth about results in our life, we can literally change it to be however we truly desire it to be. So let's take a deeper look at this. We have senses. We see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. And all the information that is going on around us out here, such as our results, our circumstances, and our environment, all of that information is consistently being fed in through our senses and into our conscious mind, which then forms an image. That image is basically what we are experiencing out here. But it's not the how of what we're experiencing out here. That means that very often people have the same results, they have the same circumstances, they grow up in the same environment. But because they have different information in their subconscious mind as to how to deal with that, they end up with very, very different results. So it's really true that the success that we want to create in our life is coming from the information that is already in us. If we want to change those results, if we want to change the circumstances, if we want to change the environment, the thing that we need to do is to replace this program information in our subconscious mind so that it works in our favor to create exactly what we want. Your environment, by the way, is made up of people, places, and things. That's important to know because our results in life usually are pretty equal to the people, the places, and the things that we allow to be around ourselves. And you know, most people never even question that their whole life. They will go around being in the same environment, surrounding themselves with the same kind of people, and because they do that, they do not get any different information into their subconscious mind than was given to them from the previous generations. The key is this. Through our conscious mind, we have a very unique ability that no other form of life on the planet has, and that is the ability to choose. We can literally choose how to think about whatever we're experiencing and create something completely different. We call that conscious choice. No other form of life on the planet that we're aware of has the ability to consciously choose. Every other form of life, plant, animal, mineral, whatever it is basically programmed with instinctual information as to how to live and thrive in that environment. It doesn't have the ability to choose something different. We're programmed two different ways. We have our genetic programming, our DNA, so we're programmed genetically. Our bodies are very much like our parents. It's a combination of the two. But we're also programmed environmentally. That means all the things that we're being exposed to in our formative years are going right into our subconscious mind without our ability to change it. So when we start to wake up to our own consciousness around the age of 7, and keep in mind, that continues to develop probably about to the age of 22 or 25, depending on your gender. As we're actually going through that process, we're consistently subconsciously evaluating what we're experiencing out here. That means that as this information goes through our senses, into our conscious mind, we see an image of what we're experiencing, and then our subconscious mind tells us how to deal with it. It's literally giving us the information to say, this is a marker because somebody else told us it's a marker, and they told us what we can do with it and what we can't do with it. Everything in your life is that way. Somebody else told you what it was. Somebody else told you what you could do with it and what you can't do with it, including the quality of your own life. So what do we do if we wake up one day and we realize we don't like certain situations in our life? Maybe we don't like the amount of money that we're making. Maybe we don't like the relationships that we're in. Maybe we don't like the current health of our own body. Maybe we don't like where we're working. Maybe we have a dream to go start a business or do a different job. We have to go through a process of understanding how to set a new goal, or we fall victim to setting a goal based on what other people told us that we could do or we couldn't do. So let's take a look here. This would be called an A-type goal. And an A-type goal is where we know our results. We know them because we're experiencing them. And the results keep repeating themselves over and over again. So we know these results here because we keep experiencing them over and over again. We also know how to think about them. We know how to suffer with them. We know how to be excited about them. What we don't know is how to change them. So if we want to start to learn how to change them, we have to realize we can't set a goal from this way of thinking because it only comes from what we currently know. There's no information that's going in our mind here. Even if you are extraordinarily dissatisfied with the goals that you have, with the results that you have in your life, without any new information, you can only come from what you know. So that indicates that you would get exactly the same current results that you're getting your entire life. But when we start to become dissatisfied, which is a perfect natural way of being in the world, dissatisfaction is something that runs through all of life, even if it's not consciously known. And basically what it is the urge of life always keeping us moving forward and progressing in life. It has nothing to do with being miserable. It has nothing to do with ego. It has nothing to do with pride. It has nothing to do with greed. It's actually the urge of life that constantly is moving us forward. That's why people get stuck in the want stage of life, where it is that they want more, they want more, they want more, but they don't understand why they want more. So they think that just things are going to satisfy that urge. And then they get those things and they find out that they're not fulfilled, they're dissatisfied, but they don't know why. But when they keep coming from their current results and what they know, they go out and they buy more things, or they go out and do more things. But nothing's really changing because the knowledge is not changing. So they start to wake up to this a little bit. And then they think, okay, I need to set a plan if I'm going to get a different result. But no new consciousness has come in at this point. No new information, really. It is basically still coming off of what it is that we know. So what we do is we go to what we think we can do. And basically what we think we can do is a rearrangement of what we know and the current results that we have. So think about it like this. You have a jigsaw puzzle. There's a picture of an apple on the jigsaw puzzle. You dump the pieces out, and your whole life you keep building this jigsaw puzzle. You build the apple, the picture of the apple, and then you mess it up. And then you build the apple again, and you mess it up. And you build the apple again, and you mess it up. People get into relationships, and they don't work. And they get rid of the relationship, but they find somebody that looks different, but basically has the similar beliefs and behaviors as the last person. And that doesn't work, so it gets messed up, and they keep repeating that problem. A person will try to increase their income, and they keep approaching increasing their income the same way. Work harder, work harder, work harder, work longer, without changing any of the information. These are the things that we think we can do, and the reason that we think we can do them is because they're familiar in some way. They're very closely related, even though the picture that we're trying to build in our mind, the result that we want, is a little bit different. So that's like taking this jigsaw puzzle that's the apple and thinking to ourselves, I want to create a banana, or I want to create a watermelon, or I want to create a tomato plant with this puzzle. And no matter how we put those pieces together, it is never going to look like the apple, or it's never going to look like the banana or the tomato plant. The only thing that it can ever be is an apple, because that's what it was created to be. It can't change it. So until this information changes, we're forced to work what we think we can do. When most people raise their income, the reason that they don't really get what they really want is because they only raise it to what they think they can actually accomplish in their life. What they think they can accomplish is based on what they know, and what they know is based on their current results. So it's a process that keeps us spinning in this cycle our entire life without very much at all changing. The face of the circumstance may change, the face of the environment may change, but the internal relations with how we're working with it and what we're experiencing are very, very much the same. So the idea is that we go to a higher level of consciousness, but we have an inherent problem here. A higher level of consciousness would be we begin to follow our desire. Now, let me just take a step back here and explain something that I have always found was very fascinating. In our subconscious mind, so to speak, I mean, it doesn't really exist there. It exists in every cell of our body. We have something that is called desire. Desire is really the biggest key of all when it comes to what is my purpose in life? What can I actually do? We recognize it mostly as wants. But if we would spend some time really contemplating what those wants really are, asking ourselves different questions like, why do I want this? Why would this be important for me? What would this actually do in my life? We would literally start tapping into what our true desire is. And our true desire is that inherent spiritual DNA or energy that is constantly flowing to and through us from the universe and allowing us to create the life that we choose to create. So these are the things that separate us from the rest of the animal kingdom that really give us a specialness, if you will. We have a desire. A desire is an internal energy and urge that is constantly causing us to want to move forward in life and seek our purpose. Find out the specialness of why we're actually here and what it is that we're supposed to be doing with our life. We have the ability to choose. The ability to choose gives us the conscious power, the conscious tool to be able to say, I no longer want to create a life that I've known my whole life but I'm not happy with, and literally create a life that I absolutely want to live. Very important. And we have an imagination. Our imagination allows us to take this desire. It allows us to choose to build an image in our mind and see something, see a new life, a new quality of life, a new amount of money, a new partner, a new environment, a new location. It allows us to see ourselves doing something that our heart just sings to be able to do, and to hold that image in our mind with our ability to focus and our will to the end result of us manifesting or creating that in our outside world. When we're children, though, we have a little bit of a problem that we're going to have to figure out how to get over if we're actually going to do that and create the life that we want. Because this desire, what it really does with kids is it causes them to dream. They have a very active use of their imagination, little kids do, before they get ridiculed for using it, and they actually start to shut it down in their life. All kids will imagine. You can give them sticks and pots and pans and Legos, and they will build things that they see in their mind. And at some point, that child has to go to school. And the moment that child begins to enter the educational system or a little bit further along in life, what trumps desire is conformity. That child has to learn to now conform to the way that the institution works so that we can raise a proper adult that can function in society. But in order to do that, we have to knock the dream out of the child's mind and teach them to follow the information that they were given about how to live, about how to survive, about how to make it through life safely so that they can create something that is stable, basically. So we're taught not to go here. Over and over again, we're taught not to go here. And one of the things that's used very effectively to teach a kid not to go here is shame and guilt. A child will be shamed and ridiculed and humiliated in front of their peers every time they start to daydream, every time the imagination begins to take over the behavior of the child and they're causing a disruption. Because the teacher and the people of authority in that child's life needs that child to conform to certain behavior so that they can get all the kids through school. So mom and dad can get all of the kids out of the house to go do an activity so that the house can run in a normal pattern and be productive. There is some sense to that, by the way. A person does need to know how to be able to move through their life in a way that is not full of chaos, but clear and in order. The problem is that we're taught that this is not okay, that dreaming, fantasizing, using your imagination is basically child's play, or it's reserved for the artist here and there that is an artistic genius of some kind. It's like we make some kind of it being okay for them, but it's not okay for the child. So most kids get this shut down in them, and they don't actually explore it and see where it would literally take them in their life if they were able to completely engage in it. So what do we do at this point? First, we have to understand that we have a program that's running in our subconscious mind, the how side of ourselves, that it will tell you not to go here, that it's irresponsible, that it's child's play, that you can't have everything that you want, not to be greedy. You think about all the things that you've been taught in your life about going to the place where you can imagine, where you can desire, where you can dream. That's one problem. The other problem is that generally when a person begins to wake up to the dissatisfaction in their life, they've already created some substantial life for themselves. They probably have a job. They may have created a family already. They have responsibilities in their life. And they think to themselves, I don't have time or the luxury to sit around and dream. I have responsibilities that are my current results. I have to keep going back to that and do this. How would I ever even create this in my life? We're going to get there. It's a good question. What I want you to know for right now is that, yes, that's what we call a value conflict. And most people are running around with this conflict in their mind. Let's take a look over here for a moment. If we're going to change this, if we're actually going to see what's in there, what's in this desire, where could I actually go? We have to think about what we really want. And we have to build an image through the conscious use of our imagination. When we do that, we really want to tap into the desire, tap into the dream. What is stirring in your heart that you may want to be, do, have, experience in your life? Here's where this is the encouragement that I would give any person. It's critical at this stage of creating a transformation in your life that you begin where you are in your own personal growth and in your own life situations and circumstances. Here's the reason why. It's very important that the image that we create, when we tap into what it is that we really want, that we have some semblance of belief that that's actually possible for ourselves. If we don't really believe that we can do it, like it's just pure fantasy, we have no belief that we can do it at all, chances are you won't create it in your life. Now, you may think, well, what if I have this amazing dream that I would really love to have, but I don't believe that I can do it? Good. Write the dream down. That's fantastic. You'll get to the place where you believe that you can have it. But what you have to start with is right now, because there's some things that we have to change. It's very comfortable to operate from this place in our life. We might not be satisfied with it. We might not like it, but we know how to manage our life in this stage very easily because we've been doing it for so long. So part of the idea is to understand that we're going to have to break through and learn literally to become uncomfortable in our daily life if we're going to move from here up to here. It's required. There's absolutely no way around it. And when I say uncomfortable, people will often ask me the question, I want to go do this, but I'm afraid. How do I get the fear to stop so I can go do it? Good question. Here's something interesting to know. A person is only born with two fears, the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. Every other fear is learned. It's learned from someone else. So if we go back to this page over here, the how we think about things, in that how, one of the things that's in that how is fear. Because we were told to be afraid of certain things out in our outside life, certain decisions that we would make, certain experiences that we would make. We're probably taught not to risk too much as of being afraid of whatever the result could be if we make a mistake. We're reinforced over and over again not to make mistakes, which is very fascinating also because the only way a person actually learns anything new is through making a mistake. You have to make a mistake, recognize that you made a mistake, understand what you need to change to get a different result so that you don't make the mistake, and then repeatedly do that until you begin to master it. Now, let's take a look at something kind of closely here because I think this is absolutely fascinating. A little child, a little baby, a little toddler has no issue with making a mistake. They're not embarrassed by it. They're not humiliated by it. They don't feel guilty about it. They don't care what anybody thinks about the mistake. A little child is following the desire to naturally be, do, and have what it needs to be in order to grow up, to begin to mature, for the body to grow, to be able to learn skill sets like walking. You never hear parents say, oh, you fell down 4 times. You're never going to walk. Just give it up. Or, what happens if you fall down again? Like, I wouldn't try getting up because what happens if you fall down and you whack your head? You don't hear parents saying this. There's no discouragement around walking. There's no discouragement around the very basic skill sets of life. We're actually encouraged to do that. The discouragement shows up as a how when it comes around things that threaten the belief system of the parents and what they've experienced in their life and what they were taught about things either not being okay, not being right, having fears, making mistakes. And then we go into school. And we go to school, and what do? They start to give us an education. And the way that they give us an education is they say, here's how to do a math problem. Here's how to learn about history. Here's how to learn about English, and on and on. And then we study it for a few weeks. What we're doing is we're going through a process of remembering the information, and then they give us a test to see how much we remembered, and they call that learning. That's not really learning at all. All it is the active use of our memory, and to be able to come back and say that we remembered how the math problem works, we learned our multiplication tables, or we learned how to spell, or we learned the alphabet, or we learned something about history. There's not a whole lot of actual learning in there. And then what makes it worse is that if we take the test and we don't score well, we don't get good marks on our test, they give us a big red F on the paper, and they say, go back and do it again. So there's also a bit of shame that goes along with the idea of making a mistake. Now, why do they use shame so much? Because they have to get a bunch of kids through a system in a relatively short period of time. There's not a lot of time to spend with the individual child to help them work through maybe their individual learning style or the difficulties they're having or what it is that they don't understand, and then that child gets labeled as a problem child. If you go around and you ask some teachers and they're very honest with you, they will tell you that it's very common for a child that's having difficulty to get labeled as a problem child, and then that idea goes from one teacher to the next behind the scenes, and that kid is labeled their entire life. It's very unfortunate, but I've known a number of teachers that have confirmed that and confirmed it all over the world, a matter of fact. It's a pretty horrific thing. The understanding behind why that is because the teacher is under tremendous pressure to get those students to pass the grades and move on. The school's under tremendous pressure by the community, by the government, and so forth, in order to be able to do that. So there's not a lot of time to spend with kids. I know that there are exceptions to that. But overall, that's kind of the way that our society works. And then it carries over into peer pressure as we get older. A person wants to belong to a certain group of individuals. They admire them for whatever reason, and they begin to start to conform their behavior in order to be accepted by that group. And then we learn, how do we conform our behavior so we're accepted by an employer so that we can have a job, make a little bit of money, and actually stay safe in our life? So what's the problem with this? The problem is that the child is not really getting to learn themselves. They're learning how to conform. That's what they're doing. They're learning how to conform so that they can stay safe. And then that becomes the modus operandi for that child's entire life. How do I have to show up and conform in order to be safe, to keep a job, to keep a marriage, to keep friends, to be in society? And you might think to yourself, well, is there really anything wrong with that? And the answer is, yeah, there's something tremendously wrong with it, because until the person starts to know themselves, they will not find their full desire. They will not be in their purpose in life. They'll be just moving around, going through life, trying to keep everything in a very safe manner, because safety becomes the biggest concern for their entire life. We're going to finish this up on the next program. See you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Successful Mind podcast. And if you like what you heard and you want to know more, go to davidnagel.com/free stuff.